Well, it looks like we're live. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Google Hangout, all about social media, the business of being social. It's my first Google Hangout, and I'm really excited. And I have a couple other people with me, but I'll give you a quick intro. So I'm Mendel. I have been using social media since the dawn of social media. And I find it really fun to talk with people in the community and random people all over the world. I'm an evangelist for GoDaddy, and so I travel around the country talking with small business owners and developers and telling them about the things that we have to offer them and learning about what new things they want from us. So that's a little bit about me. I have Noah and CJ with me, and they are at our GoDaddy office in Scottsdale. And so I'll let CJ start first, and then Noah, you introduce yourself.
I'm CJ. Yeah, I've been at GoDaddy for almost 5 years, and I used to be in podcasting, so I did a lot of social media back then, and some blogging and fun stuff like that. So this is really exciting to get to talk about social media, which is probably my favorite thing ever to talk about. So that's me.
Good one. And I'm Noah. I work in social media here at GoDaddy in Scottsdale, as Mendel said. Background is in customer service, communications, and I've been with GoDaddy for about 10 years. So it's neat to see that kind of grow, put together.
Sweet. Thanks, guys. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but we're really excited to be answering your questions today. And to get us started off a little bit, I wanted to talk a bit about misconceptions of social media and things that people think it is or it isn't, stuff like that. And then we'll probably talk a little bit about what the different social networks are good for, like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Google+. And we'll kind of have a conversation about that. And while we're doing that, if you have questions, things like that, make sure and post them in the event page as a comment, and we'll look through that. I'll be looking through it as I'm asking questions to Noah and CJ as we're all talking, and then when we get to the end of those two topics, we'll look at those questions and start answering your questions. So we'll give you some time, and I don't know if I said the word questions enough, but leave your questions. It'd be great.
Can they leave some questions? I just want to make sure they can leave some questions.
Oh, that's a good idea. Thanks a lot for reiterating the word questions, CJ. So let's talk about the misconceptions of social media. So I don't know about you, Noah and CJ, but I talk with a lot of small business owners, and they're always confused about the role maybe that social media plays. So they say, well, I have a Facebook page, so my Facebook page is kind of my website, and do I need a website, or like aren't they the same thing? And how should I use social media? And I always kind of point them towards the fact that social media is about promotion, not about necessarily a home for your business. So can you guys maybe elaborate on the whole idea of misconceptions of social media and how to look at it?
Do you want to go first or me to go first?
Go for it.
I'm going to go first. So, yeah, well, I do think a lot of people think that their Facebook page is their website, and I encourage people to have an actual website that people can go to get more information and more details. Facebook pages or your Twitter or your Google+, it's great to have those pages, but the key thing to remember is that that's where you're going to be engaging with people. You can't engage very much on a website unless you have a blog, and a blog is social media too, but for people to be able to interact with each other, share reviews and things like that in a more timely manner, that's when you would use the social media with the opportunity to have actual conversations. And so I think that they don't realize that the conversations can happen on social, but they need to have a static page where people can just go to get solid information or to place orders if they have a store online, that sort of thing, and just to get updates and make sure that everything's working well for them.
Yeah. So to that point, I guess. And Mendel, you said a good word too. You said home. So your website is kind of like your home on the web, and then your social sites are to kind of complement that home. So in my mind, then your social space for any small business, those profiles that you have, they're more about communication. Mendel, I think you said promotion. So it's about communicating, connecting, engaging. That's what the social spaces are for, and those profiles are for. Not so much to be just that home. And I think though too, Mendel, you said, what are some of the misconceptions? Did you want to talk about some other misconceptions that we
for sure
hear about?
Absolutely.
Another really common misconception though too is and obviously like people will say social media is free because it's easy to set up profiles and it's free to set up profiles. It doesn't cost anything to have a Facebook page. Social media is not free. There's a big time investment and oftentimes a financial investment as well. It's also not always really easy, to be frank, right? So each platform has its own kind of nuance, I guess, and it can be a confusing thing if you kind of jump in head first. And it's a good idea, in my mind, I guess, to kind of overcome that, or to avoid some of that confusion or that problem or that maybe that misconception, to dabble and to I guess what do I say, like experiment a little bit for your small business in social media and social spaces, but also kind of to start off slowly so that you don't overwhelm yourself, and because it can get kind of overwhelming pretty quickly, and that's not fun for anybody. So take it easy at first, right? Have fun, get started, but take it easy. Don't set up 15 different profiles for your business because somebody told you needed to have all these different ones on all these different networks.
Right, but also don't assume that because you have just a web page that everybody's going to find you. So if you have a web page and you're never updating it, it just has your company information, that's going to be harder to find. Whereas if you have social media sites that can lead back to the web page where you can tell people where to go, you're going to be easier to find when you have multiple locations. But they're not going to be that one static page where everything is going to happen all at once. So it's basically good. It's good to have all of your social sites listed on your website, but your website, like you said, is like your home, and then all of the other places will sort of lead into your home, and then your home should also tell you how to get to all the other places. But it's not all easy to find, but the more you have, the better you are going to be as far as how people can find you on the web.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a really good point. You guys bring up a lot of great points. One of the things I think is important to mention is that you can start with your social media strategy being a 10-minute a day strategy or a half an hour a week strategy to start off slow. So I'll make a personal confession. I used to have a Twitter account that I didn't use because I just didn't get it. I just didn't understand. I didn't understand what the whole hashtag thing was about and the whole public commenting and the whole, I didn't get it. And so what I started doing is I realized it was something I needed to get, right? So I started looking at just small pieces, right? So maybe I started talking with a friend of mine, or maybe I started communicating during a conference for 2 tweets or something like that. And slowly I started to understand this ecosystem and how it works. And now I post a lot and probably too much and stupid cat videos and things like that. But I get it now, and now it's easy for me. So start slow, I think, is a really important piece of advice.
Yeah. Another thing too, and I don't want to get too far off of the question, I guess, what are the misconceptions? But But just to add though too, that you should really start with a goal too, right? So what really are you trying to get from social media? Because invariably, as you know, a small business owner or somebody with a startup or something, you know, your time is spent on so many other things that aren't the social media, or not just the promotion and engagement for your business, and so, you know, if you look back over a few hours spent during the course of a week, like you said, Mendel, if you started with 10 minutes a day, or if you do 30 minutes a day, or if you commit, you know, whatever time that is for whatever period of time, for a week or something, you know, what were you really looking to get from that? And if you don't start with those goals, you'll never know if you were successful. Like what is good, and at least you can start to establish a baseline and then iterate, improve, and so forth. Because it can be a little disconcerting, right? Like you set up a new Twitter account, and after 6 weeks of some effort spent every week and invested every week, if you have, you know, 36 followers, that might be frustrating. But if those are 36 of your best customers, or those are 36 people that you really want to try to influence to become customers, you know, that's pretty valuable. And if you start there with that type of a goal in mind, you know, like a few choice followers that you're likely to influence, that's better than nothing. But you can't. It's not a good idea to consider that usually after you're at that point, right?
Yeah, and you might have the misconception that just because you're out there, everybody can see what you're saying and that everybody's listening. But it's not immediate. It takes time, and you have to engage with other people before you're going to start seeing that response. You can't just assume that just because you put something out there, the whole world saw it. Yeah. Everybody. You should assume that anything you say could be seen by the whole world and take that into consideration. But chances are that in the beginning, it's going to be a very small number of people that are going to see what you're saying, and then you have to get that word spread out. So measuring things is always helpful so that you can see the growth and how it's actually working, because you can't assume that just everybody saw that, and, you know, why didn't you see my post? I hear that a lot. Well, yeah, as I have, you know, I follow 300 people, and there's, you know, everybody's posting 3 things a day. That's 900 things. I probably haven't read all of them. Right. So everybody's going through that. So don't assume that somebody missed what you said or just isn't reading it. There's a lot of content out there for people to absorb.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And it's funny. Eamon just posted, or Aman. Twitter took me a while too, because usually if there's something worth sharing, there's no way I can summarize it in 140 characters or less. And that was a really big thing for me to learn. You know, I'm a long-winded guy, and to condense a concept into 140 characters, it's an act of willpower. So
it takes practice,
if you will it.
Yeah. Okay, so good conversation around misconceptions. And again, I just want to put a plug in. If you have a question, throw it in the comment section of the event page so that we can take a look at those. After we go through this next part, we'll answer some of those questions. And the more you post, the more customized this Hangout will be for you. So go ahead and do that. The next thing I want to talk with you guys about is the difference between social networks. So what are they good for, each individual social network, and what maybe aren't they good for? So we're talking mainly about Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google+. And let's go through each one, and we'll kind of talk about, you know, what it's for, what it's not for, and maybe some of the tips in how to post to have your post be read by the most amount of people or shared by the most amount of people. So we'll talk about Facebook first. And so I'm talking, I'm curious to hear your take, CJ and Noah, on things like, you know, length of post and calls to action, things like that. So Facebook, go.
Include pictures in your Facebook posts. Well, from a business standpoint, so you're probably talking, if you're looking at having a Facebook page, Noah's going to have a lot of information on the branding side of that, because that's more his area. But I do know that posting pictures and asking questions are 2 of the crucial things I personally see. I think those get more clicks, more engagement, and I like Facebook for the conversation opportunity that people have in the comments where they can actually talk with one another and see the entire conversation in the post itself. So you have these individual conversations, and I think that can be very beneficial if people are helping each other and supporting each other or providing reviews and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, so this is a tough one, Mendel, and you're going to have to restrain me a little bit because I can talk forever about this, and I will tell a really quick story that doesn't have to do with Facebook, but it does have to do with maybe the bigger picture of how like, so you're obviously starting with Facebook, and we'll go through these other channels, but it is to say that what works for one industry or what works for one business or what works for one person or entrepreneur or startup owner, whatever that is, isn't always going to work for other people that are in similar situations, because some people just might not feel comfortable on one platform, right? Like maybe they don't like to write, restrict their characters to 140, or maybe they have more friends and more connections, and maybe their social network is more involved on LinkedIn. They can get some more influence there or something. So really quick story. I had all but kind of written off LinkedIn for anything other than kind of a recruiting tool for us, like here at GoDaddy, because I didn't see a lot of the conversations. We weren't seeing a lot of value there, and I went to a conference for people that work in the real estate industry. So that is like different contractors and real estate agents and things. And as I talked to the group, I realized that they didn't care about Facebook or Twitter, like some of the bigger platforms, nearly as much as they cared about things like, the platform, I guess, in general, which was LinkedIn, and all of the groups there. They were connecting and building networks there and getting together with people in the community that they had met through LinkedIn, and building connections, getting new customers, new leads and things for their small businesses. And it is to say that that everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different, or everybody will feel comfortable or maybe see success in different areas. But in general, then getting back to Facebook, like CJ pretty much nailed it. You want to share content that's engaging for the right audience, so the people that are already following you or the people that you're trying to attract. You want shareable content. You want to ask questions, and you want to be engaging. The engagement is key. And Facebook actually calls it now. This is something that some people like in the industry will call like thumb stopping, right? So you want to post things to Facebook that's gonna, as they're scrolling through posts, people are scrolling through their news feed on their phone. What's gonna cause their thumb to stop on your post? It's important that when you're representing a brand, whether it's a Fortune 500 company or your startup or just your little Etsy store or something, that your content on Facebook grabs people's attention, right? Grabs your followers' attention, and it's important as well to consider that you're competing with a whole lot of Mendel, you mentioned cat videos earlier, right? You're competing with your friends posting these really cool internet memes, right? So your content has to be pretty compelling as you're publishing it.
But that's one of the points about Facebook, though, is that, and that makes one of the points I wanted to say, is that people are already there. Whereas, like,
yes.
If you compare it to Twitter, people go into Twitter and they see their tweet stream, and granted, there's some that use, they have platforms where their tweets are, notifying them all the time, but generally speaking, they're more of like one-offs, like, so it's kind of different. Whereas Facebook, people are in Facebook, they're having chats on the side, they're viewing, their videos, they're posting pictures, they're looking at, they're stalking their old friends, whatever they're doing, they're already there in Facebook. So by providing content that's going to go into that stream, that's going to, it offers a place where that content's going to come into them, where they're already there, and generally speaking, they're being interactive. And I think it's a great platform for interactivity. That's my favorite place for actual conversations. And
all right.
Yeah.
So quick. One sentence from both of you on the type of business that would probably likely want to be on Facebook. Noah, you first. CJ, you second.
That's not fair. Go ahead.
No, you said
okay. First. Oh, you said, sorry, Mendel, I missed that. I was thinking about what I was going to say. The type of business that would want I do feel like it's obviously
One sentence.
the most prominent.
Only one.
I'm setting up my one sentence.
Okay.
I'm just going to set it up.
You have to do one sentence.
All right.
Just about every business that's ready to be in social should have a Facebook presence.
Okay, CJ.
I will go further to say that I think every business should have a Facebook presence.
Wow. Okay. All right. There you have it, everybody. 2 sentences on who should be on Facebook. All right. So
retweet.
Mine's better.
Oh boy. Starting a little rivalry now between the two of them. Okay, so let's talk Twitter now. So Twitter is kind of a different animal. You know, the size of the posts have to be different. They just introduced previews of things like photos and videos and other rich media, but it hasn't always been that way. So let's try and shorten this particular segment up a little bit, as we do with Twitter posts, and talk a little bit about what it is that Twitter is good for, and how do you create engaging posts on Twitter.
With Twitter now, you can actually do, I think, animated GIFs too, so that's interesting. I haven't done that yet, but I've seen some. And I think with Twitter, it's important to, I mean, you only have 140 characters. You figure once you've added a link and a photo, now you have like, what, 10 characters left to actually say something? So it's a challenge to tweet. I think that's why hashtags were invented, so that you could cram like 4 words into less space. But using hashtags is important. Mentioning people is important. And getting your message out in a concise and yet still grammatically correct and spelled right way. Those are the things that are important to me.
Okay, Noah, you go.
Wait, can you say the question one more time, Mendel?
All right, now somebody get this guy a pad of paper so he can write them down. All right, so the question is, what? Now I don't even remember the question. What is great about Twitter, and how would you differentiate Twitter from other social media?
Okay, so it's more complex. Like there's more of a learning curve for Twitter than there is for Facebook, and that seems maybe funny because it's just you're limited to a character count and so forth. And it's a lot easier to set up, I guess, than like a Facebook page. But I think that's what kind of makes Twitter different. What makes Twitter better, I guess, or one of its shining features, I guess, is that it's great for that real-time engagement. So, I mentioned going to like a real estate conference or something. If there's not a better platform right now to listen to what's going on at an event that I care about, that I'm attending, or I'm not attending. Maybe I just wanted to attend it, like this, like this hangout. There's not a better platform to me to find out what's going on at this event that I care about and engage with the people that are there or the people that I'm interested in engaging with, whether those are potential new customers, maybe those are potential investors, maybe those are just friends. Maybe those are potential partners and things. And I will say too, I meant to come back to it with the Facebook thing. We've talked about publishing content with Facebook, and now we're talking about what makes Twitter shine. This really does apply to all social networks and social media in general, but especially with Twitter, that it's important to consider not just what you publish for your small business or your startup or even yourself, but also how you're engaging. It's social media for a reason, right? You're not just there with like what's that called, a bullhorn?
Yep.
What's that thing, right? It's
called a bullhorn.
Right, okay, bullhorn.
But it kind of is like a bullhorn.
And no, we oftentimes it's used as a bullhorn. You're right. But if you're just that jackass that's always bullhorning it up, right, telling everybody what they should be doing, and talking about yourself, not sharing other people's content, and not engaging, not listening, not replying, not commenting and things, not +1ing and liking and retweeting and so forth. If you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong. And so it's important that we talk about the publishing process and what makes a good post and so forth. But just as important, or even more important than that, it's important to remember that social media needs to be social, whether it's for your personal profiles and yourself, or the small business you might represent.
So Noah, let's take that a step further and say that social media interactions need to be genuine, A, and B, they need to be similar to the way you would interact with people in the real world. So I like to give the example, if you go to a party with your friends, nobody likes the person at the party that says, "Hey, guess what I did yesterday? It was so cool, and guess what my job is all about, and guess what I accomplished, and guess what I." Nobody likes that. Everybody likes somebody that has some give and take, that wants to know what's going on in somebody else's life. That's how truly good relationships work. That back and forth, and so I think people are the same online, that they want that interaction. I will say that people that maybe start following me on Twitter, or people that try and interact with me that never interact with anybody else, and you can tell that their interaction with me is a bit canned. I sometimes won't even respond to them, and my interest in engaging with them is much lower because that signifies spam to me. If somebody's always pushing and never having a conversation or a relationship, seems like spam. So I think you both bring up some really good points. So like we did with Facebook, let's do one sentence. Now, Noah, listen up, because this is the question. Okay. All right. So one sentence for who should be on Twitter, who should be using Twitter as far as small businesses, entrepreneurs, etc. One sentence. We're going to start with CJ so that Noah has some time to think about it.
Okay, well, I actually wanted to say something else besides my sentence. Can I?
Yeah, okay, all right, fine.
Okay. So I just wanted to say that I've been on Twitter since pretty much the beginning, and so it's been years since I've had a Twitter account, and to this day, when somebody replies to me, and it doesn't matter who, I get excited. So my advice is to reply to people, talk, engage in that conversation. Don't just read what they're saying and let it go. Because even me, after several years, I still love every response I get. I always appreciate the time. So, and any business can my sentence is, any business can benefit from being on Twitter as long as they continue to engage and they don't let it just lie there.
So if you can't commit, don't get involved.
Correct.
But if you can commit the time. So follow-up question for you, CJ. Do you think that it's more important for a business to be on Facebook or Twitter?
I'm going to say Facebook, because I think that Facebook gives you the opportunity to have more content and information, and private messaging and everything through pages, because it gives you a more solid page. That's a very personal opinion, so I don't think everybody would agree with that, and I totally respect if you don't.
Okay, Noah, let's go with your now. It's one sentence for what type of business should be on Twitter.
Yeah. So the good news, it's very similar to the one to the answer about Facebook. But with more emphasis about when that person or when that business is ready to be there. So it's a more complex platform. So what businesses should be on Twitter? Those that are ready to be more engaging. Those that this is all just comma separated. So this is one long sentence, and that was a parenthetical. Businesses that are just ready to be more engaging, right? Businesses that are a little bit more socially savvy, I guess, right? That have a few more resources. If I run a restaurant and I have a concierge, or what's that? What are the people at the front of the restaurant? Host or hostess, whatever. If I have one of those guys who's sitting on his hands all day, that can do some of my engaging, that's socially savvy. Maybe that's a resource that I can use for this. But if I don't have the resources and I don't have the knowledge, Twitter's probably something that I would get started with after something like Facebook.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. The next social network is LinkedIn, and so let's talk about what makes LinkedIn special. And we're starting to get some questions, but I wanted to remind. Have I mentioned about questions yet? CJ, have I said anything about questions?
I don't think you have. Can you let people
Okay.
know that they can
So,
get
so
questions?
I'm now the king of questions. I have self-appointed myself the king of questions, and so I would like to remind everybody to post your questions if you have them, because Noah and CJ are social experts, and if you have a question, you shouldn't leave this Google Hangout without getting it answered, because they're going to have some really interesting, probably opinionated, but definitely legit answers to your questions. So, all right, let's move on to LinkedIn, and Noah, let's start with you on who did we start with last time, CJ or Noah? Okay, so Noah, let's start with you on what is LinkedIn for, and we're not talking about professional profiles. We're talking more about how can a business use it to promote themselves, recruit, stuff like that. So go.
I'm just gonna. I'm sorry that I mentioned the recruiting thing earlier. So we use it. I think differently than maybe than people that that are attending this webinar might use it for their startup, their small business, and so forth. So aside from anything like recruiting or branding and things, I think that the best thing that you can do on LinkedIn is to establish and kind of communicate that you're an expert in a particular area by adding value to the communities that are there. Right? There are so many groups there, and just so many different ways to engage on LinkedIn, and not to talk about yourself, right? Not to say here's what I do, but hey, just to add value and to solve other people's problems, which then points to you, I guess, as an expert in that area, right? If you're adding value and helping other people, you're paying it forward, you're building these connections and you're building these relationships that ultimately are going to help you as well. But to me, LinkedIn is much more about, for a small business, much more about engaging, connecting, and building a larger social graph.
All right, CJ. Wow, that was concise. I'm impressed.
Yes, and it's about, there are communities in there that you can join that will be relevant to your business, and that is key, because you can get in there and see what the questions are being asked. You can ask questions yourself, and you can talk to experts in the fields that you're looking for assistance with. I'm a member of WordPress communities, social communities, GoDaddy communities. I work a lot with the domains team here, and so I do searches in there to see people who are talking about the new GTLDs, and I can respond and say, hey, I have some information about that I can share with you, and answer questions and get them to the right people internally. So you can direct your focus to where you want to be, and those communities are all in there, and there are people who need answers, and there are people who can give you answers. And I think that is a great way to get your business activated in the communities, so that people know that you exist, and they know that they can come to you for help for whatever your specialization is. And I think that that's a really cool thing that LinkedIn does.
So you both are proponents of the LinkedIn groups and using those to help promote your business.
I must be. I get a lot of emails from those groups.
All right. So now, if you're watching, you'll notice that these segments get quicker and quicker as we move through the social networks, and the reason that happens is because a lot of the principles are the same between the different networks. So I'm going to go now to the question that I've been asking both of you, and that is, in one sentence, describe what business would be best served by being on LinkedIn. And the follow-up question, which I know is going to happen, is, do you have to be on LinkedIn?
I'll answer it.
Who's first?
I'll go. It's my turn to go first.
Oh, yeah, go.
Okay. Any business who can navigate LinkedIn should have a LinkedIn, and I mean that's pretty much it. If they can do it, you should have it on there. so that your employees can join your groups, and you can have the communities there to service you and help you, and you can help them.
Yeah, so and I'll stray from that just a little bit. I don't necessarily disagree, but I think I'm picturing a different size of business. So if I'm picturing like a really small startup, like a garage kind of a startup with like 1 to 5 employees or something, I'm thinking that a business doesn't need to have a presence there or a profile there on LinkedIn, but instead it's about the individual. So the founders, the founders or the whoever it is who is impassioned by what service it is that they're starting to offer the world. That's who needs to go there and connect. But I think that LinkedIn, this is again kind of where we'll part a little bit. It's an opportunity. It's a really big opportunity to connect. But it may not be for everybody. And it's so. If you don't participate in LinkedIn, it's only some opportunity lost. I don't think that it's as crucial as some of the other platforms.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good point. Size of the organization matters. I'd also say that that if you're in a professional service industry, so if you're in the legal industry or if you're in the accounting industry, types of industry that are professional services that you might want to offer to professionals, LinkedIn's going to be a really good place for that. If you're a restaurant or something like that, maybe it's not your first choice. Maybe Facebook is your first choice, or Twitter is a good second, and LinkedIn might be a far third or fourth. So speaking of types of social networks that are great for local businesses, let's talk briefly about Google Plus and Google Local, and then I want to switch gears from talking about the different social networks as we have now we have a baseline of knowledge, and answer a few questions, and then if we have time, we can go through some other things like how specifically to go about promoting a business. So let's talk about Google Plus. Noah, you're going to get to start us off this. No, wait a minute. You started us off the last time. CJ, you get to start us off on Google Plus. Tell us all what you like about Google Plus and what really makes it awesome for a small business owner.
All right. Well, and I'll be completely honest. Google Plus is not something that I was an early adopter in, so I am still feel, even after a year or so, I still feel kind of like a newbie in there. I've started joining communities, and I think that the communities are, again, it's sort of like LinkedIn in that aspect. The communities are just great. They have so much information out there and so many people that you can connect with based on specific topics. And so if you're a business and you should have a Google Plus page if you can. It has all the the location information. That's sort of similar to Facebook, and I think that that's going to be growing and offer more things. And I know they have the reviews in there, but I haven't noticed as much activity in there as of yet. Still, Google Plus seems to be a more technical community, but I think it's growing, and I think that it has opportunities, and I'm really starting to love it. So, but I'm still learning a lot about it myself. But I still think that the strength is definitely in the communities there right now. So if you have a business and you want to get in there and be active with people and talk about people in your industry, that's a good place to go for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
and what about Google Local? Noah, why don't you take that?
Yeah. Well, no, that's a good segue. I think that, and I apologize, but I think that isn't Google. So Google Local though isn't a thing anymore. I think that is one and the same with Google Plus.
Okay.
We don't run a brick and mortar, so I'm not as familiar with it. But it does apply to a lot of people who may find value in this hangout, right? So it's still a great segue. I see Google Plus in terms of like engagement very similar to the way that I see it, or I guess it's very similar to LinkedIn. So I think that you can find some great communities there. And like for example, if I am a website developer and I like to make custom WordPress themes, or I like to build out restaurants' websites or something like that, you know, I could add value and engage and connect and network with a lot of people in in a WordPress group, right? So people who are enthusiastic about WordPress as a product or something like that. So that's one way that it can be used for from a small business perspective. But then getting back to the places thing, maybe just getting back to whether or not a small business should have a presence there or how important that is. I think that it's probably important to have that established, but it's for no other reason than to have that space claimed. CJ mentioned reviews, because this allows me to basically get on, especially if it's a brick and mortar that I'm running, to get on the map, like literally get on the map. Like we all use Google Maps, right? I need to have this presence here on this Google profiles for people to rate my business, to check into my business, to review my business. So then it's almost like a Yelp or something, right? So like that's a necessity. If I'm a locksmith, and I want people to be able to find me when they're locked out of their cars or something, they're going to go searching, and whether they're using Google Maps to search for a locksmith or they're using another service that maybe aggregates or pulls in Google Maps data and Google Plus, Google Local, whatever we want to call it, like I want to be found in those results, right? I want people to find me. I want to go out and service them, right? I want a new customer that way, and so I think that it's crucial for anybody who has like a brick and mortar or a service that would need to be found that way or could be found that way.
Right, and when somebody's doing a search through Google, it'll come up on the right-hand side. It'll show the map. It'll show the business. It'll show all of that.
Right.
And the Google Plus page will have a link to it if there's a Google Plus page, which is important. And another thing to note is the Hangouts feature. So if you want to do something like this, like what we're doing, and talk to your community, the Hangouts features are really cool. I mean, we love doing Hangouts.
And you can do it. If you have an audience and you want to have a Hangout, you can make your own Hangout, and it's pretty straightforward. I did want to mention one thing about the Google local stuff, and I did look it up. Now it's Google Plus Local or something. So anyway, something I wanted to mention, and I was trying to bait the question a little bit. So I have done work for a pizza place for quite a while in the town I used to live in, and one day we found that their local Google page had not been claimed, and they have their own website. They can do online ordering and things like that. When we claimed that page and put a link to their website on that profile, they started seeing an increase in orders, actual revenue from having that page claimed, putting a basic profile up, and then putting a link to their website. So just something to keep in mind, especially if you're a company that does online ordering or online leads, like the locksmith example. It's a great example of an organization like that.
Yeah,
so,
Mendel, I'm just going to interrupt you real quick, because Alan Fair just commented as well, and CJ touched on it also, of course, too. There is a major potential SEO benefit. It's not just it's not about maybe necessarily moving up in the rankings, but if you have that Google Plus page, there's some great Google real estate you can get when people are searching for really specific either keywords or your business specifically. In Google. So you're right there. I don't want to overlook that.
Yeah, there's no reason not to. If you already have a website, you already have a web presence, there's no reason not to make it so that your Google presence is healthy and there. And even if you're not as active on Google Plus, I think that having the page is an important thing to consider.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So I want to keep us on track here. We have about 15, 16 minutes left in this Hangout, and I want to. We've been kind of weaving in some of the questions as we've been talking. I want to laser focus on some of these questions that are being asked on the event page. So the first one from quite a while back, and I'm just going to hit this one because I'm the one that did it. there was a question about how to make a good promo video for a Google Plus Hangout, and I will be the first to admit that mine was not perfect. It may have been okay, but it wasn't perfect. What you want, and it was my first one, so take it easy on me, guys. But I think the big point, and some of the things that we've been talking about this entire time, about creating engaging content and compelling content and things like that, you want it to be fun, playful, and you want it to be short and sweet, and you want to have a clear call to action. So it should be fun. You should say, this is what we're doing, this is the topic, this is why you should come be a part of it, and sign up here or go here. And make one call to action, one thing that you want the audience to do as a result of seeing that promo video. So that's what I would consider my best practice for that. And be a little less nervous than I was creating that first one. So, so do you, Noah and CJ, do you have any other quick tips to add for creating a promo teaser for something like this Hangout?
I'm not in the business of promos, but I mean, I like what you did. I think that, you know, unless you want to have it all stuffy and professional, I actually like the more casual, come talk with me kind of interaction to let someone know, because somebody's going to be, in my opinion, I would rather watch someone who I know is going to be sitting there talking to me and interacting with me, and I think that was a good feel for that. So I think that's a good thing to get across too. The big brand marketing type things being thrown in your face sometimes could be like, oh, well, this is, it would strike me as, okay, this is just a marketing thing, whereas I think yours was actually pretty cool in that people knew that they were going to come here and hear some people talk about stuff for real.
So CJ likes the cash. She likes the chilled out, casual.
I don't know that I would use that word ever, but.
Well, I just used it, and it will live in infamy on the internet, on GoDaddy's recorded Hangout. So there it is. I hope y'all enjoy it, because I use the word cash and y'all in the same paragraph. So that's fantastic. Noah, I'm not going to let you answer. We're gonna. No, okay. Do you have any quick thoughts?
It'll be quick. I'll just say that, like, you should start. You start with a goal, right? So you mentioned call to action, like, or what's your one thing that you want them to take away? And it really should. Like, are you looking for them to get entertainment? Are you looking for them to get like education? Are you looking for them to take action and visit your website or to buy something? Are you looking for them to share? And start with that, I think, and
let them know what to expect.
Yeah, make something cool. Make
cool.
something that stands out and is different.
Sounds great. Thank you. Okay, so next question. As a startup, how do I draw traffic, users, followers to my social media profiles for my company or brand? Noah, we'll start with you. Go.
You should say the name of who's asking it too.
It's Bashkar.
Oh yeah, I know that one from Bashkar. Yeah, that's a pretty broad question too. Like, just that means how do I do social media? I think, right? How do I get followers? How do I get?
We've touched on a lot of that though, right? As we've been talking. I said we've touched on a lot of that as we've been talking.
Yeah, I think that we have, and I would say the best way to do that. So to this really high level answer to a pretty broad question, I guess, high level question. To just go out there and add value. Don't go out there like we talked about, like I forgot the name of it again.
Megaphone.
Well, now you just use a different name. Yes, it is a megaphone, but that was the name I was looking for originally. Don't go out there with your megaphone and think that you're adding value by telling everybody what's up, right? And about all the things that you offer and how you offer them, how you offer them better than everybody else in your industry and things. Like, don't do that. Go add value and participate in conversations like you would mentally mention a party. Go add value in these communities. That's how you will get followers. And you may end up with fewer followers, right? If you're not paying for followers, or you're not just telling everybody how awesome everything is, and you're not only running deals or something like that. But you'll get better followers, right? You'll have better relationships with the people who follow you. That means you'll have more shares and more likes, they're getting something from you, and you're getting something from them.
Right. Provide, engage, acknowledge, and appreciate. Those are the things I think you should do.
All right. And by the way, Mia Voss said, good point. Good point for newbies. Assume someone will see it, but don't assume everyone saw it. So to your point earlier, CJ, great summary of that concept. And she said, post carefully. So we've all seen in the news posts that weren't done so carefully. And they end up being deleted or retweeted or laughed about. So
the internet golden rule: don't post it on the internet unless it's something you'd feel comfortable having on the front page of your newspaper.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So then we have let's see here. Denver's mother apparently likes to embarrass him on Facebook. So that's funny. He says ban all embarrassing family photos. Good idea. Good idea. I like that idea.
As a mom, I disagree completely.
Okay, and I'm just looking through the comments here.
That one that just came in
Callie.
from Callie.
Hi, Callie. Okay. I said provide, engage, acknowledge, and appreciate.
Pia.
Pia.
So here's a question. Well, it's kind of a statement question from Amber Brown. It says, I have over 700 friends on Facebook, and I don't think any of them are really useful for my business. I don't think I can compete with cat videos and family pics. Maybe I just can't engage them. I get like statuses for pics, but I can never engage them in a conversation. So this is an interesting issue. You know, you start a business, you have a personal profile, and maybe your business isn't of interest to the people that you're friends with. I know that if I were to post all the time on my personal Facebook profile about every news article that came out for GoDaddy and every new domain name that came out and everything, you know, people would say, okay, enough, all right. And it's the same thing with, you know, if there's one exception. I have a friend that works at a call center for a cable company. I won't say which one. And occasionally he posts things that people call in about, and they're really humorous. So that one I really like. But other than that, how do you deal with the difference between personal and professional when it comes to Facebook?
If you're trying to get engagements from your personal followers, and I post things about my business on my Facebook too, and I don't get as much engagement on my professional posts as I do on my personal posts because those are my personal friends that are there reading that more often than not. So they don't engage. But if I have a valid question or I have some type of topic that I want to discuss and I can do it without incorporating the business aspect of it, engagement will happen naturally. Or if all else fails, just post something about Game of Thrones.
Okay. Game of Thrones. That is the solution to everything. By the way, CJ, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to tell everybody what is in your ear.
Oh, my Twitter earrings. I'm wearing little Twitter bird earrings.
So they're kind of hard to see, but I just thought it was important. She was really happy about it today.
Okay. Colby says he doesn't want me to tell people that Colby bought them for me. He's over there.
Oh, okay.
I see him.
Yeah, don't say that on a Google Hangout.
It's a secret.
Do you have something to contribute to that, Noah?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit confused by it. So there are two types of Facebook like profiles, right? So there's a personal profile, and then there's like a professional page. And so and I think that I understand from the question that then we're talking about maybe how do you promote your business or how do you promote your professional stuff on your personal profile, if that's right.
Yeah.
And you guys pretty much covered it. right? Like you don't like my friends care about more than just the company I work for and the products that or our announcements and things, and they're willing to share for me, but I don't want to abuse that like anything else, right? So I'll put those into my feed when I think that it's relevant to them, right? It's just about it, like anything else. It's about knowing your audience, right? I know my friends on Facebook, and I'll put stuff in front of them if I think that it adds value. And if it doesn't, then I don't because I want them to still like me.
Okay.
I do include stuff about GoDaddy and new things that are happening on my Facebook, whether they get engagement or not, because they excite me. So if it's exciting to me and I look at it as my personal page, I want to share that information whether somebody's going to engage with me or not. So it's all kind of your perspective, how you look at it. But if you're actually looking for engagement, then that's going to be different. I don't know if you really want to just get your friends engaged and pushing your business, or if you want to use your Facebook that way. So it just kind of depends on the individual.
Great.
Okay. So thanks for the answers. Good answers. I'll give you a +1 on that answer. So the next and last question that we're going to answer on the Hangout, and just to let everybody listening know, we'll be answering, if you post questions, keep posting them. We'll answer your questions after the Hangout via text. It just won't be video, but we'll make sure and answer your questions if you're leaving them and we don't get to them in this last question. And the last question is from Virtual Point Solutions, and the question is, how often should you post to social media? Should you use tools that use a blast function to post the same content on all social platforms? This has got to be an age-old question for social media. You know, should you post everything on everything? And so, what's the answer to that, Noah?
Yeah, we got 3 minutes, and I can talk for a lot longer than 3 minutes about that myself. So I'm going to say the answer is no. Like, I think it's poor form. I don't like it at all. It's a way to, like you said, blast. It's a way to reach maybe more people, but I don't think it's respectful of your audience. So if you have a customer, if you have a follower, if you have a fan, a friend, an advocate for your business, or just you as a person that follows you on multiple profiles, it's not respectful to put the same thing in front of them multiple times. It's just, in my opinion, it's like personal spam. But it is a shortcut to reach more people.
Okay.
I want to just add to that the problem with that, and I think this is where it comes in, is that I have people who follow me on Facebook who don't even use Twitter, or I have people who are on my Google Plus circles that are not on my Facebook, and so my general rule is, if I am going to post to multiple sites, for example, say I'm promoting this Hangout, then I try to at least change it up. I won't use a tool that will send the exact same thing to Facebook, to Twitter, and to Google Plus. Each person will get a different message. So if they do see it more than once, they'll understand that it's because they follow me on different places.
Yeah.
But I don't want somebody to get left out because they don't follow me on one location. But there are certain times where, you know, I know that only a certain audience is going to want to see a certain thing. So it just depends, ultimately.
Okay, and hey CJ, can you verify with Colby that if we go 5 over that we won't get kicked out of the Hangout?
Yeah, we're fine. We're good.
Thumbs up.
Okay. So I have 2 quick questions for both of you to kind of close things out. Number 1, Noah, if somebody wants to interact with you on social media, what is your preferred social network, and what's the way to get a hold of you there?
So probably Twitter, and my Twitter handle is hard to communicate verbally, I guess. So it's just _N.
N is for Noah.
I'll put a link to it in our Hangout.
Cool. And what about you, CJ?
My Twitter is CJPHX, CJ Phoenix. Okay.
And my preferred is also Twitter, and it's if you will it. The last question I have for both of you is, if you could give, I feel like this is the Sunscreen song from like 5 years ago, but if you could give one piece of advice, and only one piece of advice, to everybody everybody in the world that uses social media, every small business owner, what would that one piece of advice be? And this has to be one sentence, guys. Has to be one sentence.
Be kind. That's my sentence.
Okay.
That was great.
I'm totally.
It was
crazy.
amazing.
That's
I'm not laughing
Be
at it.
kind.
I just like
I
that.
love it.
That's amazing. How do I
love
follow it? I would say, let me compose it. So start in social media now, yesterday, and so don't be. I can't do it in one sentence, Mendel. So get started. So go get started in social media. It's important for your small business, and so don't be afraid of it. Right? It's not going away. That's
Okay.
not advice.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, don't be afraid of it. There we go.
All right, good. So there are.
I have to say something else because I'll forget. Sean
Yeah.
Funder's doing another hangout on August 14th about being legit and building online credibility. Hey, I'll forget.
This message was brought to you by.
This is your PSA. Sean Funder is legit, and he's going to talk about being legit on August 14th. So that's another piece of advice, is to watch that hangout.
And we have. I bet him that he couldn't have a more entertaining Google Hangout than we can make. So it's going to be even more ridiculous than this hangout. So go watch him.
Nice.
It'll be cash and legit.
Yeah, cash and legit. Yeah, for sure. You said it. You finally said it. Anyway, all right, cool. Well, if that's everything, boy, that was a lot of information that we crammed in there. Noah and CJ, thank you for being a part of this, and thank you to everybody watching. It was awesome that you were all answering each other's questions and asking questions and just taking part. So thank you for joining us. And and that's great. Alon just posted, "Be kind." I knew I taught you well. Anyway, all right.
He did. He's awesome. Thank you, Alon.
All right. Well, you guys have a great day. Everybody watching, have a great day, and we'll have another hangout soon.
Bye.